Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Craig Reger. I'm the co-founder of Reger Coaching Consulting. We've got one of our amazing coaches. I'm based out of Portland, Oregon. We've got Mr. Brian House, also in Eugene, Oregon. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So, Brian, you are the sales director of the Cooley team in Eugene, Oregon. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. Going on about 6 years now.
So you're in production, and then you also are leading a group of like 10 plus agents in production as well?
Exactly. So been growing the team here, but we got about 10 agents in the group, and always looking for new strategies and techniques for growing our business locally.
So for many, 2023, at least Q3 and 4 was kind of a down market for our industry. How did your personal business for you turn out last year?
Last year was actually my biggest year production wise to date. So it was really a great year. Had a wonderful finish to the year. Obviously, we saw some shifts in the market and some changes, but luckily we had some good strategies in place to help us alleviate some of the downswing.
Yeah, I think I heard, maybe it was a rumor, maybe memory's incorrect, but you were north of 50 million personally on the team. Is that correct?
That is, yeah.
Congratulations, Mr. House. And you got a great name for being a realtor, Brian House. How cool is that?
Yeah, I always joke that it only took me an hour in the DMV line and I had a new career started.
All right, well, let's get started. Today, we're going to cover what RCC calls our #1 listing strategy for Q1. And I've got some stats here just for a Portland market. Let's see if my screen wants to move on me. Yeah, this is just some stats of what we saw in Portland, Oregon over the last couple of weeks. Let's take a look at price reductions. Well, let's actually look at canceled expired, excuse me. So that's a number we weren't tracking a few years ago. We started tracking about 2 months ago for my own team here in Portland. Look at that last week of December, first week of January, Brian, 497 expireds.
That's crazy. It's a different market today.
The week before that, right during the holidays, Christmas, 102, and the week before that, 133. So basic math says to me that that's about 700, maybe 750 canceled or expired listings. I'll tell you what, Portland is a good sized town, but we're not a booming metropolitan city. We're not Seattle. We're not LA. So why is this our #1 listing strategy for Q1? Is in just a 3-week period of time, if you're an agent and you're looking to spike your Q1 business, you had 700 plus opportunities with people that literally raised their hand, said, hey, I want to sell my property. And then for numerous reasons came off the market over the last 3 weeks of December. There's a large group of them. I would easily bet half of them are either back on the market now or will be in the next 120 days. Would you agree with that, Brian?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. So that's why it's our #1 low-hanging fruit, easy strategy. All right, well, let's walk the team through what you're doing with canceled expireds. We're doing very similar here in Portland, Oregon, and we'll share our best practices. How does that sound?
That works for me. I'm ready to go.
All right, so let's just start with the basis. Like, you want to get started with canceled expireds. You've never done it before. Like, how do you find canceled expireds as a realtor? What's your best technology?
Yeah, so I mean, other than trying to do it the old-fashioned way, which is you pull up the MLS and you go through, you find a listing, and you try to search the web for a name and number. We use tools. We have a tool right now called Reger that absolutely works phenomenally well for today's market, because it's going to give us the information in real time. It's going to give us contact information, and it's going to give us a lot more ancillary information that we might be able to use to better our conversations. So that's a great tool for anyone looking to get started.
Awesome. So you sign up with a company like Reger. They're fairly reasonable. I believe less than a couple $100 a month. We're actually using them as well. Okay. And they will give you a list every day of the week in the zip codes or areas that you've identified. And they'll give you, hey, at 12:01 last night, these homes expired or canceled. And here they are, fair game for you to reach out to this morning. Is that correct?
Spot on.
You know, what I also really love about that technology is they rescrub it every day. So, let's say your personal home, Brian, expired last night. You're like, oh, shoot, I forgot to extend it in the multiple listing. And this morning you go in and reactivate that to an active listing. Tomorrow, that's going to come off the Reger list. So it's a very accurate data point, because it's giving you real time who expired, and real time as properties relist. You're not going to be bugging people, which, by the way, is illegal, who are back on the market.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a big part of it, right? Because you want to go into these conversations with the utmost confidence that you're talking with people who have a true need and are hopefully willing and able and ready to have that conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple other companies that we believe in have had good success with, or our clients here at RCC, is RedX, of course. We're both using it, Brian and I. Vulcan 7's a good one. Land Voice. There's multiple companies out there. I would say it's kind of like when somebody says, what CRM to use the one that you're going to use every day that you're comfortable with. Okay, so you've swiped your Visa, you wake up tomorrow morning, you've got a group of expired listings. Like, how does that work? Like, do you attack it at lunch break? Like, walk us through a day of going after expired and canceled.
No, great question. And I think you have to truly understand what the cancel expired market opportunity is. And we absolutely make that a priority, because these, like you mentioned before, they happen at 12:01. So that list goes out, or it's available to a large audience at 12:01 or the next morning, whatever it is. So we 8 o'clock, 8:01, we're picking up the phone and we're calling from that list, because we understand that while we're a local agent and we have the local knowledge to help these people, there are competitors out there who are on a national level who might be calling them. So for us, speed to lead is crucial. 8 o'clock in the morning, it's on the calendar every single day. It's 15 to 30 minutes time blocked, non-negotiable.
Yeah, so it's not a whole lot of effort. What I heard is 15 to 30 minutes non-negotiable 8:01. And to me, it's muscle memory. If it's one of those things you do on and off once or twice a week, like it is a competitive sport. There is a large group of your competitors going after expires and cancels right now. So to build the skill set, the objection handlers, the muscle memory, heck, the pipeline. It's gonna be a large group of people that are not ready to talk to you now, but are agreeable to you setting a time in the future to reach back out. All of it, it really is a 5. In some cases, depending on how big your business goals are, arguably a 7-day-a-week activity for just 15 or 30 minutes. The only exception that's going to be on the first of the month, because historically, when real estate agents sign contracts with people, they inevitably put that contract to end at the end of the month. So just as we saw in that last slide I showed, you'll see a large surge of expireds on the first of each month. Okay, so you're attacking at 8 a.m., 15, 30 minutes. You typically get through that day's rotation. Walk us through what that call sounds like, Brian.
Yeah, it's really a different call, but it's very consistent, where we're coming from a place of curiosity, really trying to understand what's going on in their world. Starts out with hey, Craig, I noticed your house was for sale on the MLS yesterday, and it's not today. If you were to receive an offer at your asking price, or at a price that you were willing to accept, would you still consider moving in the next 30 to 45 days? From that, we're going
to... Uh-oh, we lost Mr. Brian House mid-script. Hey, Bella, are you still with me? Can you give me a thumbs up just to make sure it's not on my end?
Nope, not just on your end. I think we are experiencing a little bit of tech issue.
No worries, but I'm still live, correct, Bella?
Correct.
All right, perfect. Well, I'm going to take over for Brian. So I loved what he shared. And maybe text Brian to relog in, or maybe internet went down in Eugene, Oregon today. Either way, I'm going to carry us from here out till we get Mr. House back on. So I love that opening script. Like, hey, I saw your property was for sale yesterday. It's off the multiple listing today. If I brought you an offer for your asking price or the price you would you take it? It's a great opening line. We do it very similar, a little different here in our Portland team. We find that this group is typically frustrated, for lack of a better term. They're pissed off, right? They've been on the market for months at a time. They probably put a lot of time and energy into getting their house on the market. They're vacating for showings. They're hopefully like putting dishes in the dishwasher, making their bed each day, dealing with kids, dealing with pets. Like, selling your home, ladies and gentlemen, no matter how good or talented we are as an industry, make no mistake, it's a tremendous amount of work. So imagine how that seller is feeling after going through all of that effort and process. And at the end of it, they've been unsuccessful. Their contract has expired or canceled, and they didn't reach their end game of getting an acceptable offer. So when I hit expires, I typically come in with that approach of a very similar opening cadence to what Mr. House just shared. And what I'll normally hear back is some type of objection or reluctance, like, hey, we're going to wait, we're going to keep it off the market, we're going to do some remodeling, we're not selling right now. I'll hear a lot, where were you when my house was for sale? I never saw you show it. Like, in short, I'll say it again, they're pissed off and they're frustrated. especially if I'm the fourth or fifth caller of that morning, they're even more agitated. And what I found the most impactful script that completely diffuses the situation is I go to a really calm place and I'll just simply say, I appreciate you sharing that, Mr. Seller. And I've got one question for you. When you went through all the time and energy of getting your house on the market, where were you going to go when that property sold? When you went through it, welcome back, Mr. House. I'm walking into my portion of the script. So I'll ask you, Brian, right now I called you. I'm the fifth caller of the day. You're on the market for 4 months. You were dealing with kids and pets and making beds and doing dishes. Like, it is a lot of work to have your house on the market. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. No, and it's been a struggle the last 4 months. It's been a life change. You've uprooted my normal routine.
Yeah, so you're frustrated. By the time I call you, you're frustrated. So I give you that call and say, hey, Brian, it's Craig Reger. I'm a local expert here in Portland, Oregon with Reger Homes. I saw your property was on the market yesterday and today it's not. I've got one question for you. You know, if I was to bring you an offer at your price, would you still consider moving next 30 or 40 days? Odds are you're going to shoot me back with some energy. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what might you say back, Brian?
Craig, yeah, we absolutely still want to sell. We just don't, we're not getting the action we thought we were going to get.
Yeah. So I've got one. So this is the gold of my script, is literally the gold, Brian. And I bring it down to a calm place. Brian, I've just got one question for you. When you went through all the work of putting that sign up, getting your house ready, and all the effort over the last few months to have your home on the market, my one question, Brian, is where were you going to go when the house sold?
Boy, we had plans to move to up north to a new town where we had some new job opportunities.
Oh, fantastic. So when you guys sold, you're going to move closer to Portland, Seattle area and start a new job venture?
Yeah.
That's awesome. What would that do for you if you got up there?
It's a significant pay raise, that's for sure. It's a little too far for us to commute, so it's probably not going to work out, unless we sell our house.
So to me, that's the magic of what I just shared. I'll go out of script for a second. It's just defusing it. Everybody has a reason they're going to sell. And when you just bring it down that level in a really calm voice, it's like, I appreciate your energy and your frustration, Brian. I just have one question for you. You went through all that time and energy, get your house on the market, allowing people to come through, assuming they actually showed up. Where were you going to go? At that point, Brian, you hear the most amazing things. Well, we're going to move closer to my parents. My mom's getting old. I was going to move closer to my job. My commute's too long and it cuts into my family time with my kids. I was going to move up north because there's a potential pay raise. Like, you're going to hear, I'm too old to keep up with the house or the yard. I need to down. Like, it's not always a good news, but you hear the most amazing things. And then you just simply fire back and say, yeah, you still deserve that, Brian. You still deserve that pay raise. You still deserve to not kind of have that kind of commute and have a better life for yourself and your loved ones. So don't let one bad experience be the reason you don't move to up north. There is plenty of homes selling every single day here in Portland, Oregon. Why don't I come over for 15 or 20 minutes? I'll show you what I do. And at the end of it, if you feel it's a good fit, I'll stay a little longer. We'll talk about it. And if in the end of 15 or 20 minutes, you don't feel I'm a good fit, you're not resonating with what I'll do, I will leave, Brian, and I'll never bother you again. How does that sound?
That sounds like a fair trade.
What works better for you, tonight at 4 or tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.?
Let's go tonight at 4. I want to get this going.
Guys, I got to tell you, what I just walked through will work in any market. Luxury, starter homes, move up buyers, downsizers. They're pissed off, they're frustrated. And when you go back to motivation, hey, where are we going to go? And then they tell you, and it's a cool thing. And then you share back like, guys, you still deserve to get there. Don't let that experience don't let one bad experience you just had selling your home be the reason you don't go here. And I mean it, Brian, like, I can meet with somebody for 15 or 20 minutes and I'm going to know. And so there's credibility and integrity behind asking for a 15 or 20 minute meeting. Because I'm going to know in 15 or 20 minutes, is this a listing I want to take, a client I want to work with? And likewise, they're going to know in 15 or 20 minutes, is this resonating? Would they like me to stay longer? Or do they want me to get the heck out of their living room? So I feel a lot of integrity of asking for that 15 or 20 minutes. And I share with you a lot of listing opportunities. We'll just leave in 15 or 20 and they're probably happy we go. But there's a whole lot to say, hey, Craig, we'd like to know a little bit more about your marketing or your commission structure or your philosophy of where the market's going to go. Can you stay a little bit longer? So it works out really well. All right, Brian, I know we lost you right at that key point of where you shared your script. What if they give you an objection back and say, you know, we're just going to keep it off the market for a while. We're too pissed off and frustrated. I got to go. Where do you go with that person?
You know, Craig, I like to use the rule of three. Take the no 3 times, get a better understanding. Because like you mentioned, these people are in a position where they're frustrated. The culmination of a lot of frustrating events and a lack of follow through or a lack of success in the process of selling has piled up, and they finally pulled the ripcord and they said, I'm done. I'm not selling. I'm taking it off the market. So we're hitting them within 24 hours of that happening. And so the reasons that they can give you those immediate responses are they're taking out their frustration from the last agent or the last experience. You caught them at a bad time. It could be, you know, they're having a disagreement with their, you know, other decision makers in the process. And so going for 3 allows us a chance to go for no 3 times that they're really not motivated. And you can push back a little bit each time. And ultimately, if you get to 3, you can say, okay, it sounds like now's not the right time. Would you mind if I, you know, kept your home as a potential off-market listing so that if I had a buyer, I could potentially present this to down the road, I could reach back out to you. You have a reason to follow up with them. Or a conversation a week later, whatever it may be. That gives us the ability to stay in communication. We've asked for permission to do so. And now the next touch point might be 3 days, it might be 7 days, but unless we know for sure that they're not going anywhere, they raise their hand at one point in time, which means there's a strong possibility they will again.
I love that, Brian. My experience with expireds canceled is there's 3 groups. Group 1 in the next 1 to 10 days is going to be back in the multiple listing. Group 1 in the next 1 to 10 days is going to be back in the multiple listing. Group 2, somewhere between approximately day 60, especially at this time of year as we're moving into a spring and summer market. Group 2, somewhere between day 60 and 120. They're going to take a break, but somewhere in 2 to 4 months, they'll be back on the market. And then there's group 3. They're done for 3, 4, 5 years. They're going to remodel. They're going to stay put. They've given up on whatever if it's sold, where were you going to go? They've ended that dream and they're not going to resurrect it. So I love what you're doing with that rule of 3 is you're really trying to identify, hey, if you're in that group that intends to be back in the multiple listing next 10 days, we got to get together for that 15 minutes. Now, if you're in that group that's in the 60 to 120 days out, I can appreciate now is probably not the right time. You get permission to follow up, and then you provide items of value over a period of time. It's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to your point, that initial group is the one who probably says, yeah, I'm ready for a change of pace. I'm ready for a different approach. The person who's at 60 days is probably saying, listen, I need a breather. I'm overwhelmed. This was frustrating. I didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. And there you approach them with a different technique and maybe a bunch of information and a different strategy over time. And then the third is someone you just keep in the database and you keep in touch with, because at some point in time, like you said, maybe they are going to remodel their house. Maybe they're going to do a couple of things. Maybe they're going to wait for their kid Sally Joe to graduate from high school before they try it again. And so it's an opportunity to start building a relationship.
It is. What I find with that expired cancel game, there's most of the people that go after these are only looking for group 1. So in other words, that group that's going to list in the next 1 to 10 or 1 to 14 days is they're attacking those ferociously, and they completely lose track of that group that's a little bit further out, and they stop staying in touch with them. And there's a lot of gold, especially in January. No matter how skilled you are or how high their motivation is, there's a group of people that are simply not going to go back on the market until April or May, possibly March. So it's really good to, I like how you ended your statement, is build that relationship, continue to follow up. So Brian, all of this is happening 8 to 8:30ish in the morning. There's a group that can't answer the phone. There's a group that are dropping kids off at daycare or helping or doing something where they physically are not, and they will never answer the phone 8 to 8:30. How do you find that group?
Yeah, so two different approaches with those. We try to identify based on the voicemail, that we actually hear when we call them. Is this the right number? Is this the right person? Great. Those get put into a pile. We know that we're calling the right people. We're going to get in touch with them at some point in the next 24 hours. That might be a call session from 4:30 to 5:30, even a 6:30 to 7 o'clock time period. And really, those touches can sometimes be a much different, softer approach because people are at the end of the day and it's a little bit different conversation. And like you said, they're not taking kids to school. They're not in a panic of the morning. And we have just as much success, I would say, in the evening as we do in the first thing in the morning.
That's awesome. And I saw a question come up from Daria and it said, how often do you follow up? And that's probably one of the most common questions I get when I travel around the country and coaching and training agents. And I call it real estate IQ, Daria. At the end of the day, we do know this group is a group that, as of last night at midnight, had their hand raised saying, sell my home. So with this group, I'm going to put follow up to be a little bit more tenacious over that first 7 days than maybe other lead sources. So maybe it's once a day for 7 days. I'm trying to get my foot in the door, have that initial conversation to judge their motivation. After that, for the next 3 weeks, I might move it to once a week. And after that, I might move it to once a month for the next 3 months. That's how I would handle the follow-up. Brian, would you do anything different?
No, I think you're spot on there. And I think one of the things you mentioned, which as real estate agents, we've all heard, I'm waiting till spring to list my house, or I'm waiting till summer to list my house, right? I only want to move when kids are out of school. And so we look back when these people actually listed their house. They listed in July intentionally last year. Yes, they expired end of December, but they waited until July, possibly waited until July for a purpose. And so getting to understand and ask a lot more questions as to why was it that you listed in July, and then putting them on a plan where we know that we're going to follow up with them. Because to your point, a lot of our competition makes that first phone call and then it gets put into the trash bin, not even a recycle bin. It's just that leads out of the way. So if we can do a little digging, use our realtor IQ to say, okay, these people are more likely to move in the summer. Let's ask questions around that and put them in that bucket. Then it's a follow-up. It could be for 6 months.
I love that. Yeah, you and I, when I was in Eugene a couple of weeks ago, and I actually stepped into your office while you were lead genning, and you actually had somebody that shared that, like, no, I'm not going to do anything now. Like, there's no way I'm doing anything before May. Or I was hearing one side of the conversation, but that's what I heard. And you had a really good objection handler. You shared something like, is there anything that will trigger you doing it sooner, and or what's important to you about May?
That's one of my favorite questions to ask is, what prompted you to list your house when you did last time? Yeah. And if we can identify that trigger event that really got them from thinking about listing to listing their house last time, and then what was important about when you listed it. If that trigger event, so if we can identify what that trigger event is, and we can keep an eye on that happening again, we know that we have someone who will repeat their actions and their activity a second or third time, if we know what that event is, and we can keep an eye on it, we can track it, and we can stay in communication around that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really good. Daryl asked, will receive scripts. 2 things you'll get, Daryl. One is you're going to get a copy of today's recording. Mr. House and I probably do 6 or 7 Zooms a week, so I don't know why his Wi-Fi is a little goofy, but you will get the recording. And then in the next 4 to 5 days, we have a download as well with some additional scripts plus the ones we've covered, and that'll be sent out to you as well. So yes, sir, Daryl, you will get those scripts. Really good, Brian. So not everybody is going to allow us to come over. Some people are 3-4 months out. And what is your best follow-up strategies, right? I think it was Daria asked, how do you follow up? Like, what do you share on a follow-up call to build relationship or to provide value?
It really depends on the first conversation we have, but a lot of times what our first conversation stems around is the fact that we try to help people understand and build trust with us. And we built a reputation. And one of the things that we talk about during that first call is the fact that we are the area's top second agent. And what that means for them as a seller is that we have the experience to come in and, I don't want to say clean up others' messes, but we can come in and get the job done when others can't. And there are different processes that we can go through than you might have heard of in the past. And I'd love to share more of those with you as we continue to talk and as we prepare for when you are ready to relist your home. And simply leaving that out there for people, it triggers phone calls, it triggers conversations. I had a conversation with a canceled listing that called me about a month later. He said, "Hey, you brought up a couple of things when we were talking that I just can't seem to, stop thinking about. You said you do things completely different than others." And, it was something else that we talked about, but just having that opportunity for them to pull back to the first conversation is a really important factor.
Yeah, everybody should write down where Brian just started with that. He said, "We are the area's top second agent." And ladies and gentlemen, this was an unnecessary skill set to have for the better part of the last 3.5 years, right? It was weird for a home to sell. It could back to a cemetery with a nuclear power plant in the front of it. And it could be falling down. And in the market we were in, it sold. And it probably sold with multiple offers, and they waived inspections. So being a second agent was an unnecessary skill set for the last 3 years. Although where we started this, my market alone, Portland, Oregon, 700 plus expireds in just the last 3 weeks. There is a necessary need to be a second agent. What will you do different? How will you market different? How good is your photographer? What is your value proposition? So that's a really powerful line to bring out somewhere in the conversation is we specialize in selling homes that other agents failed to sell. So yours is we're the top second agent. Mine is, it's the same script, it's just saying it different ways. We specialize in selling homes for top dollar that other agents failed to sell. I'd love to come over for 15 or 20 minutes and show you what we will do different. And a lot of you, especially if you're newer in the business, you might be scratching your head right now saying, well, what would I do different? Start with a multiple listing. How good are the photos? Is there the max amount of photos? Is there a neighborhood park nearby that wasn't included in the marketing? Is there cool shops or restaurants in the community you could include? Is there a virtual tour? How strong is the write-up? Does it actually talk about the features of that community? A lot of what you can do different, you can actually see in 2 or 3 minutes of just reviewing a multiple listing of an expired or canceled. Anything on that you want to share, Brian, before we start wrapping up?
No, I think that's spot on. Is how well you know your market. If you don't have the tools and the information to have that level of conversation, spend the time, do the homework, prepare yourself, come with stats. I can't tell you how many agents I talk to on a daily basis who don't know market stats and who don't know just generally what's happening around them. Like if you can't come in there and say that 4% of the homes are actually being canceled, and of that 4% of the homes, that's equates to 74 homes that canceled or expired last month, 22 of them relisted at a lower price point. If you can't come in with some stats that allow you to have instant credibility in those conversations at that kitchen table, take the time. Take an hour every day and just learn the market so you're prepared to do so. If you're a newer agent who doesn't have that second agent trophy on their desk.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, that's been our mantra for the last 6 or 7 months is, and don't get me wrong, like I know how hard we work as an industry, having to write 6 or 7 offers for a buyer at 100,000 over asking before we got an accepted offer. That was a different kind of work. Right now is more work what you're sharing. We're not that busy. We're not representing that many people. We're not having a mad dash where we meet somebody at noon and we're writing an offer at 12:02. So use that time to study your market, study your multiple listing. Your multiple listing or your brokerage or both of them guaranteed have some market stats. Take 15, 20 minutes a week to review those so you can articulately talk to any of your lead sources about what's going on. Somebody's got a question. Do you call the do not call numbers? Peter, that's a hard no. Don't do that. The great news about companies like Reger, Vulcan 7, Landvoice, all of them have a scrubbing of the not calling the DNC. So thank you for asking that. But you can knock on their door. You can mail them letters. You can drop something off their house. There's still a lot of ways to get in front of that potential lead that have been incredibly successful. I'll answer the last question I had for you, Brian, the follow-up techniques to ensure you get the listing. When I've got a lead I'm working for weeks or months at a time, I love just pinging them. I've got their cell phone typically through Redex. I love pinging them like, hey, I know that you're on Wichita Street in the Humperdoodle neighborhood. FYI, I'm showing a home there this afternoon. I'm very active in your community. And when you're ready to sell, I'm excited to represent you. And then if I happen to sell a home, and what I'm typically shooting for is our elementary school, because our elementary school is a good sized grid, but it's also kind of small, if that makes sense. And so anytime I'm working, showing homes, holding open houses, writing offers, or closing property in their elementary school, they're getting a text from me. Like, hey, I'm back in your elementary school area, and I just showed a property on ABC Street. As a reminder, I'm active in your community, and when you're ready to sell, we should talk. That constant reminder a couple times a month just seems to put me in front of the competition.
Love it.
All right, Brian, any final thoughts you want to leave them with on expireds?
One thing that I will challenge people to think about with expireds is, and this is something that we constantly coach to and talk to with our team here, is you're not a yes person. You are asking tough questions. Be prepared to sit down and have a difficult conversation. And you might not want to take every listing that is offered to you at the table. Be prepared. If you don't have, if you can figure out why they sell and they're sticking to their story and that's what it's going to be. Know your value. Know your value as an agent. Know what you can and can't do and what's possible in the market. That comes back to market knowledge and just understanding, because your time is valuable. So make sure you're asking good questions and can find a path forward to a successful sale.
Yeah, it's really good advice, Brian. In my experience, I said there's three kind of expires. Ones that will list in the next 7 days, and those that will list in 60 to 120 days, and those that won't list for 4 or 5 years. On the flip side of that, there's two other types of expireds. There's those that just did not get the service level they needed. And you come in and provide that service level, and they're so thankful for the great advice you're giving them as a professional in the market. And there's another group that doesn't care what you say, how knowledgeable you are. They're not going to take your advice. And that's why they expired in the first place with their first agent. So run from those, and because they will suck your time and energy, because this is a numbers game, and you're meeting a lot of people that have raised their hand, and you're connecting with the ones that you can provide the most value to. They're going to appreciate that value. So right now, sorry, buddy, go ahead.
No, I said 100% spot on.
All right, let's wrap up. We are a national coaching consulting company. We specialize in helping agents do more business with consistency and balance, period. How do I do more business tomorrow than I did today? How do I consistently keep my business going? And how do I do it and still enjoy my daughter's soccer games, or have time to visit my parents, or be able to go on a date night without being on my phone the entire time? So if any of you are interested in a free coaching consultation, check out the QR code. I know we've got a bunch of our clients on here today. It's great to see you. And for all of you that are looking to spike your listing business Q1 of 2023, get after expireds. Be consistent. We're going to have all the scripts loaded. We're going to send you a copy of this, and rock and roll, and reach out to us or any of our coaches for any help you need along the way. Cool. All right, Brian, I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks, everybody. Make it a powerful day.
Thanks, y'all.